Black waitress feeds a disabled boy unaware his billionaire father is watching. If you're here for heartfelt moments and unexpected turns, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The clatter of silverware against ceramic plates echoed through Murphy's downtown cafeteria as the lunch rush reached its peak. Steam rose from the coffee machines behind the counter, mixing the rich aroma of dark roast with the sizzle of bacon on the griddle. Selena Washington moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her worn sneakers silent against the checkered linoleum floor. At 27, Selena had perfected the art of being invisible while staying indispensable. Her coffee-stained apron told the story of a dozen rushed shifts, but her smile, genuine and warm, never faltered, even when her feet ached and her back protested. Today felt different, though, heavier somehow. She paused at table 12, spray bottle in hand, when movement in the far corner caught her eye. A small figure in an oversized wheelchair struggled with what should have been a simple task: eating lunch. The boy's sandy blonde hair fell across his pale forehead as he concentrated, his thin hands trembling as he tried to grasp a sandwich that seemed impossibly heavy. The sandwich slipped from his fingers, landing with a soft thud back onto the plate. Around him, diners averted their gazes. Conversations continued. Life moved on as if nothing had happened. But Selena saw the way the boy's shoulders sagged, the defeated slope of his small frame against the chair's metal support. Her supervisor's voice echoed in her memory. "We serve food, Selena. We don't provide personal care services. That's not our job." The boy tried again. This time, the sandwich made it halfway to his mouth before his grip failed. Selena's chest tightened. She glanced toward the kitchen, where her manager was buried in inventory sheets, then back at the boy. 8 years old, maybe 9, dressed in clothes that cost more than her monthly rent, sitting alone in a cafeteria that probably wasn't his usual dining scene. She set down her spray bottle and walked over. "Hey there," she said softly, crouching beside his wheelchair so they were eye level. "Having a tough day with that sandwich?" The boy, Ethan, she'd learn later, looked up with startled blue eyes. His voice came out barely above a whisper. "I can do it myself." "I bet you can do lots of things yourself," Selena said, her tone matter-of-fact rather than pitying. "But sometimes even superheroes need backup, right?" Ethan studied her face, searching for the condescension he'd grown used to from adults. Instead, he found only patient kindness. "You think I'm a superhero?" he asked. Selena pretended to consider this seriously, tilting her head as if evaluating his superhero potential. "Well, you've got the determined look down. And that's a pretty cool ride you've got there." She nodded toward his wheelchair. "What's your power?" For the first time that day, Ethan's mouth twitched upward. "I don't have powers." "Sure you do. Mind if I help you discover them while we tackle this sandwich situation?" Ethan glanced around the cafeteria, then nodded slowly. Selena positioned herself beside him, careful not to crowd his space. "Okay, Captain Ethan, this is clearly a job for the sandwich squad. I'm thinking I'll be your co-pilot today." She picked up the sandwich, breaking it into smaller, more manageable pieces. "Now, see this piece here? This isn't just turkey and bread. This is a spacecraft carrying nutrients to planet stomach. And you," she pointed at him with mock seriousness, "your mission control." Ethan giggled despite himself. "That's silly. The best missions usually are," Selena replied, holding out a piece. "You ready for launch, mission control?" As she helped guide the food to his mouth, making quiet whooshing sounds like a rocket ship, something magical happened. The tension in Ethan's shoulders melted away. His laughter drew curious glances from nearby diners, not the uncomfortable stares from before, but genuinely pleased smiles. What neither Selena nor Ethan noticed was the man at table 7, hidden behind a copy of the Financial Times and a cup of black coffee that had long since gone cold. Marcus Hale, founder and CEO of Hale Industries, was worth more than some small country's GDP. His picture graced magazine covers and conference banners around the world. But here, in Murphy's downtown cafeteria, wearing jeans and a casual jacket instead of his usual $1,000 suits, he was just another face in the crowd. He'd followed Ethan here after their morning therapy session had ended in another frustrated meltdown. The boy had insisted he needed space and normal food, not another sterile clinical environment or carefully prepared meal by their private chef. Against his better judgment, Marcus had agreed, trailing his son at a distance to this unremarkable cafeteria in downtown Chicago. Now he watched, transfixed, as a complete stranger accomplished in minutes what teams of expensive specialists had failed to achieve in months. "All right, Captain," Selena was saying, "time for the vegetable squadron. These green beans are elite forces. They need special handling." She picked up a green bean with the fork, holding it like a tiny sword. "This one's General Green Bean, reporting for duty." Ethan dissolved into giggles. "He needs a cape. Obviously, all generals need capes." Selena grabbed a napkin, tearing off a tiny piece and pretending to tie it around the green bean. "There. Now he's properly dressed for the mission." Marcus felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest as he watched his son, his quiet, withdrawn, often frustrated son, light up with pure joy. When was the last time he'd heard Ethan laugh like that? When was the last time he'd seen him engage so naturally with another person? The truth hit him like a physical blow. He couldn't remember. "Everything okay here?" The sharp voice cut through the moment like a blade. Selena looked up to see her manager, Patricia, approaching with the expression she reserved for employees who were about to be written up. "Just helping a customer, Mrs. Chun," Selena said, not moving from Ethan's side. Patricia's eyes narrowed. "This isn't a daycare, Selena. We've talked about appropriate boundaries with customers." "He needed help eating," Selena said simply. "Then his parents should handle that. Or they should take him somewhere with proper facilities." Patricia glanced dismissively at Ethan's wheelchair. "This isn't our responsibility." The warmth drained from the air around their table. Ethan's smile faded, and he looked down at his lap, familiar shame creeping back into his posture. Something fierce flared in Selena's eyes. "He's a kid who was hungry," she said, her voice steady but steel-edged. "And last I checked, this is a restaurant. We feed people. That's what we do. We serve food," Patricia corrected coldly. "We don't provide personal assistance services. Insurance liability, health department regulations." "He's 8 years old. I don't care if he's 8 or 80. Rules are rules, Selena. Step away from the customer." Now, the cafeteria had gone quiet. Conversations paused mid-sentence as diners turned to watch the confrontation unfold. Ethan shrank further into his wheelchair, his appetite completely gone. Selena looked at the boy's defeated posture, then back at her manager. She thought about her rent, due in 2 weeks. About the electric bill sitting unopened on her kitchen counter. About the fact that jobs were hard to come by for someone with only a high school diploma and no family connections. Then she thought about the sound of Ethan's laughter. "No," she said quietly. Patricia blinked. "Excuse me." I said no. Selena's voice grew stronger. "I'm not stepping away. This boy needs help eating his lunch, and I'm going to help him. You can write me up, fire me, whatever you need to do. But right now, I'm finishing what I started." She turned back to Ethan, whose wide eyes reflected amazement that someone would stand up for him. "Where were we, Captain?" "Oh, right." General Green Bean was about to embark on his most important mission. Patricia's face flushed red. "Selena, she's doing exactly what she should be doing." The new voice carried quiet authority that made everyone in the immediate vicinity turn. Marcus had risen from his table and approached theirs, no longer content to observe from the shadows. At 6'2", with silver threading through his dark hair and wearing clothes that, while casual, clearly cost more than most people's monthly salaries, Marcus commanded attention without trying. But it was something else. The protective tension in his stance, the sharp focus in his gray eyes, that made Patricia take a step back. "Sir, this doesn't concern." "This is my son," Marcus said simply. The words hung in the air like a revelation. Patricia's mouth opened, then closed. Selena froze, one hand still holding Ethan's fork, her mind racing to process this information. Ethan looked between the two adults. "Dad." Marcus's expression softened as he looked at his son. "Hey, buddy. Having a good lunch?" "Selena's helping me," Ethan said, his voice small but proud. "She made up stories about the food." "I saw." Marcus's gaze shifted to Selena, who was still kneeling beside the wheelchair, looking like she was calculating the probability that this was all some elaborate prank. "She's very good at that." Patricia cleared her throat, clearly recalibrating her approach now that a well-dressed parent had entered the equation. "Sir, our employee was just treating my son with kindness and dignity," Marcus finished. "Something I pay a team of professionals a considerable amount of money to do, and yet." He gestured toward Ethan, who was sitting straighter in his chair, a half-smile still playing at the corners of his mouth. This is the most engaged I've seen him in months. He looked directly at Patricia. What's your name? Patricia Chun. I'm the manager here. Miss Chun, I'd like to buy lunch for everyone in this section of the restaurant. And I'd like this young woman, he nodded toward Selena, to continue helping my son with his meal. Are those requests going to be a problem? Patricia's demeanor changed completely. Dollar signs practically flashed in her eyes as she processed the implications of having a clearly wealthy customer making generous gestures in her restaurant. Of course not, sir. Not a problem at all. Selena, you do whatever the customer needs. She hurried away, no doubt to spread word of the mysterious generous patron to the rest of the staff. Marcus pulled out the chair across from Ethan and sat down. For a moment, father and son simply looked at each other. You followed me, Ethan said, but there was no accusation in his voice. I was worried about you, Marcus admitted. You were upset after therapy, and you wanted to come here by yourself. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I'm okay, Ethan said, glancing at Selena. She made lunch fun. Marcus's attention shifted to the young woman who was still crouched beside his son's chair, looking overwhelmed by the turn of events. What's your name? He asked gently. Selena. Selena Washington. Selena. He repeated it thoughtfully. How did you know what to do? With Ethan, I mean. He doesn't respond well to strangers trying to help him. Selena looked at Ethan, who nodded encouragingly, then back at Marcus. I didn't do anything special. I saw a kid who was frustrated and hungry. So I tried to make it less frustrating and more fun. That's it. Selena shrugged. Kids don't want pity. They want to feel normal, to feel like they matter. Ethan's got the same needs as any 8-year-old. He wants to laugh. He wants someone to pay attention to him. He wants his food to taste good. The wheelchair doesn't change that. Marcus stared at her. In 2 minutes, this waitress had articulated something that he'd struggled to understand despite years of expensive consultations and therapy sessions. Dad, Ethan said suddenly, can Selena come have dinner with us sometime? The question caught both adults off guard. Marcus felt that familiar twist in his chest, part pride that his son was advocating for something he wanted, part pain that the something wasn't time with his father. That's not really how these things work, buddy, Marcus said carefully. Why not? Ethan's voice carried the logical stubbornness that had made him both a challenging and endearing child. She's nice to me. She makes me laugh. Isn't that what friends do? Selena stood slowly, brushing imaginary crumbs from her apron. Ethan, your dad's right. I'm just someone who works here. You two should enjoy your lunch together. But you didn't finish helping me eat, Ethan protested. I think you can handle it from here, Captain, Selena said with a gentle smile. Remember what we practiced, small pieces, no rush. General Greenbean is counting on you. She turned to leave, but Marcus's voice stopped her. Wait. Both Selena and Ethan looked at him. Marcus was a man accustomed to making split-second decisions that affected thousands of employees and millions of dollars. But this decision felt infinitely more important and terrifyingly uncertain. What time do you get off work? Excuse me. Your shift. When does it end? Selena glanced around the cafeteria, as if searching for hidden cameras or some other explanation for this surreal conversation. 5 o'clock. Would you be willing to join us for dinner? Nothing fancy, he added quickly, seeing her expression. Ethan seems comfortable with you, and I'd like to understand how you connected with him so easily. Dad, yes. Ethan's face lit up completely. Selena looked between father and son, these two people who had somehow tumbled into her ordinary Tuesday and turned it upside down. The sensible part of her brain cataloged all the reasons this was a bad idea. She didn't know these people. She had nothing appropriate to wear to wherever they probably dined. She'd likely say something embarrassing. But then she looked at Ethan's hopeful expression and remembered the sound of his laughter. Okay, she heard herself say, but somewhere with good burgers. I don't do fancy. Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile Selena had seen from him. I know just the place. Later that evening, at a family-friendly restaurant known more for its comfort food than its ambience, Selena found herself in the most unlikely dinner party of her life. Ethan had insisted on sitting next to her, keeping up a steady stream of chatter that revealed just how articulate and bright he was when he felt comfortable. So you've been working at Murphy's for how long? Marcus asked as they waited for their food. 2 years, Selena replied. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Most of the time. She caught herself, realizing how that might sound to someone who clearly had never worried about making ends meet. I mean, it's honest work, she added quickly. I wasn't judging, Marcus said. I was impressed. What you did today, standing up to your manager like that. That took courage. Selena shrugged uncomfortably. She was being cruel to a kid. Somebody had to say something. Most people wouldn't have. Then most people need to do better. The simple statement hung in the air. Marcus studied this young woman who seemed genuinely unaware of how remarkable her instinctive kindness was. Tell me about yourself, he said. Family? School? Plans? Dad? Ethan interjected. You're asking too many questions. She's not on a job interview. Marcus laughed, surprised by his son's social awareness. You're right. Sorry, Selena. Force of habit. It's okay. She smiled at Ethan. Your dad just wants to know I'm not some weirdo who's going to teach you bad habits. Are you? Ethan asked with mock seriousness. Definitely. I'm going to teach you how to make armpit noises and how to eat ice cream for breakfast. Ethan dissolved into giggles, and even Marcus couldn't suppress a laugh. As the evening progressed, Marcus watched his son transform. The quiet, withdrawn child who struggled through most social interactions was animated, confident, even playful. When their food arrived, Ethan fed himself without assistance, chattering away about school and his favorite video games and a book he'd been reading about space exploration. He's not usually like this, Marcus said quietly to Selena while Ethan was distracted by something happening at another table. Like what? Happy, talkative, normal. Selena frowned. He is normal. He's just a kid who needs people to see him as a kid first, everything else second. His therapists say he has anxiety around new situations and people, that he struggles with self-confidence and social interactions. Maybe he just needs the right people, Selena suggested. Some folks make you feel like you have to prove you deserve to take up space in the world. Others make you feel like you belong exactly where you are. Marcus stared at her. How old are you? 27. And you figured this out how? Selena's expression grew more serious. My little brother had cerebral palsy. Not as severe as Ethan's, but enough that people treated him different, made him feel different. I learned early that the way you approach someone, especially a kid, shapes how they see themselves. Had? Marcus asked gently. Car accident when he was 16. Drunk driver. Her voice was matter of fact, but her hands tightened around her water glass. He was the smartest, funniest person I knew, but most people never saw past the wheelchair to discover that. I'm sorry. Me too. She looked at Ethan, who was now demonstrating to a fascinated server how he could make his wheelchair spin in a complete circle. But it taught me that every kid deserves to feel special just for being who they are. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, a recognition, perhaps, of what he'd been missing in his approach to parenting his son. Selena, Ethan called, rolling back to the table. Watch this. He proceeded to show her how he could balance a sugar packet on his nose. She responded with appropriate amazement and applause, encouraging him to try increasingly silly tricks that had him laughing so hard he got the hiccups. Later, as they prepared to leave, Ethan looked between the two adults. Can we do this again? He asked. I'd like that, Selena said, meaning it. Marcus nodded slowly. So would I. Over the following weeks, what started as an unlikely friendship evolved into something none of them had expected. Marcus found himself looking forward to their dinner meetings as much as Ethan did. Selena brought out a side of his son he'd never seen. Confident, silly, unguarded. More than that, she challenged Marcus in ways that made him uncomfortable and grateful in equal measure. You hover, she told him one evening as they watched Ethan navigate the restaurant's small arcade area. Every time he tries to do something independently, you're right there ready to jump in. He might get hurt, Marcus protested. He might succeed, she countered. And he'll never know if you don't give him the chance. It's not that simple. His condition is part of who he is, not all of who he is. Selena's voice was gentle but firm. He's not fragile, Marcus. He's capable, but he needs people to believe that before he can believe it himself. Marcus watched his son attempt to win a stuffed animal from a claw machine, determination written across his features. 2 months ago, Ethan would never have tried something so public, so prone to failure. How do I do that? He asked quietly. How do I stop seeing the disability first? Same way you'd parent any kid, Selena said. Set expectations. Celebrate achievements. Let him fail sometimes. Believe in him completely, even when he doesn't believe in himself. The therapists say. The therapists see him for 1 hour a week in a clinical setting, Selena interrupted. You're his dad 24/7. Your opinion of him matters more than anyone else's. That night, as Marcus tucked Ethan into bed, his son looked up at him with serious eyes. Dad, yeah, buddy. I like who I am when Selena's around. The simple statement broke something open in Marcus's chest. Why do you think that is? Ethan considered this with the thoughtfulness that often surprised adults. She makes me feel like I'm good at being me. 3 weeks later, Murphy's downtown cafeteria was more crowded than usual. Word had spread about a special event happening during the lunch rush, though most customers weren't quite sure what to expect. Selena worked her usual shift, moving between tables with practiced efficiency. But today felt different, electric with anticipation for reasons she couldn't quite name. At noon, Marcus arrived with Ethan. But instead of taking their usual corner table, they positioned themselves near the center of the dining room. What's going on? Selena asked as she approached with coffee and water. Ethan has something he wants to do, Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. She looked at the boy, who was fidgeting with excitement and nerves in equal measure. Remember what we practiced? He asked her. Practiced? Selena was confused until she saw the small microphone Marcus was setting up on a portable stand. Ethan, what? I want to tell everyone about you, Ethan announced. About what you did for me. Selena's heart started racing. Honey, that's not necessary. It is to me. The simple statement, delivered with 8-year-old conviction, stopped her protests. Marcus stood, and something about his posture drew attention from across the room. Conversations gradually quieted as people turned to see what was happening. Excuse me, Marcus said, his voice carrying easily across the space. I'm sorry to interrupt your meals, but my son has something he'd like to share with you. He handed the microphone to Ethan, who gripped it with both hands. For a moment, he sat silent, and Selena could see the old anxiety creeping into his posture. She knelt beside his wheelchair, just as she had that first day. You've got this, Captain, she whispered. Remember, you're not talking to a crowd. You're talking to friends who just haven't met you yet. Ethan nodded and lifted the microphone to his mouth. Hi, he said, his voice small but clear. My name is Ethan Hale. A few people waved. Someone called out, Hi, Ethan. The friendly responses seemed to bolster his confidence. A few weeks ago, I was eating lunch here by myself. I was having trouble because sometimes my hands don't work the way I want them to, and I was getting really frustrated. The room was completely quiet now, everyone focused on the small boy in the wheelchair. But then Selena, he looked at her. She came over and asked if I needed help. Not like she felt sorry for me, but like she actually wanted to help. And she made up these funny stories about my food being spaceships and superheroes, and suddenly eating lunch wasn't hard anymore. It was fun. Selena felt tears prick her eyes. She didn't help me because it was her job, Ethan continued, his voice growing stronger. She helped me because she saw that I needed it, and she cared enough to do something about it. Even when her boss told her to stop, she kept helping me. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. My dad says that's what real kindness looks like, when somebody does the right thing even when it's hard. And Selena taught me that I don't have to be ashamed of needing help sometimes. She taught me that asking for help is brave, not embarrassing. He paused, looking directly at Selena. But mostly, she taught me that I'm worth helping, that I mattered just as much as anybody else. The cafeteria erupted in applause. Selena pressed her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed by the generosity of this gesture and the courage it had taken for Ethan to stand up in front of a room full of strangers. Marcus took the microphone back from his son. 3 months ago, he said, I thought I understood what my son needed. I hired the best therapists, bought the best equipment, provided every advantage money could buy. But I missed the most important thing. I forgot that what he needed most was to feel valued for exactly who he is. He looked at Selena, who was still kneeling beside Ethan's chair. This young woman saw my son not as a problem to be solved or a condition to be managed, but as a person worthy of respect and kindness. She gave him something I had failed to give him, the confidence to take up space in the world without apology. The applause began again, but Marcus held up a hand. Selena Washington has been working here for 2 years, serving food and cleaning tables and making customers feel welcome. But her real gift is seeing people, really seeing them, and responding with compassion. Today, I want to make sure everyone in this room knows her name and what she's capable of. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Selena, you told me once that this job pays the bills most of the time. I'd like to help with that. He handed her the envelope. This is a scholarship to the nursing program at Northwestern University, if that's something you'd be interested in. Full tuition, books, living expenses. Selena stared at the envelope like it might explode. I can't accept this, she whispered. You can, Ethan said firmly. You should. You'd be the best nurse ever. Why? Selena asked Marcus, genuinely confused. Because you have a gift for caring for people. And because you changed my son's life. His voice grew quiet. You changed both our lives. He looked around the room, addressing the crowd again. But more than that, I want everyone here to understand something. What Selena did, seeing someone who needed help and providing it without judgment or hesitation, that's not extraordinary. That's human. That's what we should all be doing for each other. The applause this time was sustained and heartfelt. People stood, turning to look at Selena with genuine appreciation. Patricia Chen appeared at Marcus's elbow, having materialized from wherever managers hide when important things are happening. Sir, this is wonderful publicity for our restaurant, she began. Marcus's expression cooled. Miss Chun, this is the woman you tried to prevent from helping my son. The employee you threatened to fire for showing compassion to a customer. Patricia's face flushed. Well, policy should never prevent basic human kindness, Marcus said firmly. I suggest you examine your priorities. He turned back to Selena, who was still clutching the envelope. You don't have to decide today, he said gently. But I hope you'll consider it. The world needs more people like you working in healthcare. Ethan rolled his wheelchair closer to Selena. Will you think about it? He asked. Please. Looking down at his earnest face, thinking about her brother and all the people like him who needed advocates and caregivers who saw their humanity first, Selena felt something shift inside her chest. Yeah, she said softly. I'll think about it. And in the meantime, Marcus added, I hope you'll keep having dinner with us. Ethan's made it very clear that our friendship is non-negotiable. Definitely non-negotiable, Ethan confirmed solemnly. As the crowd began to disperse and normal conversation resumed, Selena remained kneeling beside Ethan's wheelchair, overwhelmed by the sudden transformation of her entire future. Hey, Marcus said, pulling out his phone. Mind if I get a picture? I want to remember this moment. Selena looked at Ethan, who was grinning widely, then at Marcus, whose eyes held a warmth she'd never expected to see from the intimidating businessman who'd first approached their table. Okay, she said, but I want copies. For when I'm old and gray and telling people about the day a little boy changed my whole life. Deal, Marcus said, snapping several photos of Selena and Ethan laughing together. As the cafeteria returned to its normal rhythm and Selena went back to work, though with considerably more spring in her step, she thought about the chain of events that had led to this moment. A frustrated child, a dropped sandwich, a split-second decision to offer help. Sometimes, she realized, the most ordinary moments hold the most extraordinary possibilities. All it takes is someone willing to see them. 6 months later, Selena Washington started her first semester in Northwestern's nursing program. She kept her part-time job at Murphy's, partly because she needed the income, but mostly because she'd grown attached to the regular customers who had become invested in her success. Marcus and Ethan visited every Tuesday, their standing dinner date, now a cherished tradition. Ethan's confidence had blossomed in ways that amazed everyone who knew him. He joined his school's debate team and was lobbying his father to let him try wheelchair basketball. You know what the best part is? Ethan told Selena one evening as they shared dessert. What's that? I'm not scared of people anymore. Because you taught me that most people are good. They just need someone to show them how. Selena smiled, thinking about her brother, about second chances, about the way one act of kindness could ripple outward in ways you never anticipated. You taught me something too, she told him. What? That being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing anyway. Marcus listened to this exchange, marveling at the depth of wisdom in his 8-year-old son and the young woman who'd helped him find his voice. Later, as they walked to the parking lot, Marcus fell into step beside Selena. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing him. For seeing us. for changing everything." Selena looked back at Ethan, who was practicing wheelies in his chair while humming to himself. "I didn't change anything," she said. "I just reminded you both of who you already were." As they reached their cars, Ethan called out, "Same time next week?" "Wouldn't miss it, Captain," Selena replied. Driving home that night, she thought about the scholarship envelope that had arrived in her mailbox 3 days ago, an acceptance letter and class schedule that represented the future she'd never dared to imagine. But more than that, she thought about the lesson Ethan had taught her, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply show up for someone who needs you. Even if you're just a waitress in a coffee-stained apron, armed with nothing but compassion and the willingness to treat every person like they matter. Sometimes, that's everything. The next Tuesday, as Selena arrived at the cafeteria for her shift, she found a small crowd gathered around table 12, the same table where she'd first met Ethan. Confused, she pushed through to see what was happening. There, seated in his wheelchair with a huge grin on his face, was Ethan. But he wasn't alone. Around the table sat 6 other children, all in wheelchairs, all listening intently as he told them about his friend Selena and how she'd taught him to turn mealtime into an adventure. And this, Ethan was saying to his new friends, is where the magic happens. Every meal can be a story if you have the right storyteller. He spotted Selena and waved her over. "Guys, this is her. This is Selena." The children looked at her with curiosity and excitement, clearly primed by Ethan's descriptions of her legendary food storytelling abilities. Marcus appeared at her elbow. "Sorry," he said with a slightly embarrassed smile. Ethan heard about a support group for kids with mobility challenges, and he insisted on bringing them here to meet you. He's been planning this for weeks. "Planning what exactly?" "A demonstration," Ethan announced proudly. "I'm going to show them how to make eating fun instead of frustrating. Just like you showed me." Selena watched in amazement as her 8-year-old friend took charge of the table, transforming what could have been an awkward social situation into an adventure. He showed the other children how to break their sandwiches into spacecraft pieces and turn their vegetables into brave little soldiers marching to planet Stomach. Within minutes, all 7 children were giggling and chattering, their usual self-consciousness forgotten. "Look what you started," Marcus said softly. Selena shook her head in wonder. "No, look what he became." As she watched Ethan help a shy girl with her soup, making up elaborate stories about the carrots and celery swimming in the broth, she realized that the ripple effects of that first encounter were still spreading. One act of kindness had become 2, then 3, then 7. And it was only the beginning. "Selena," Ethan called out, "can you help us? Tommy here thinks his mashed potatoes look like a mountain, and I told him you're the best at mountain climbing stories." She grinned and headed toward the table, ready to spin another tale of adventure and friendship. After all, some stories are too important to end with just one telling. Epilogue, 2 years later. The graduation ceremony at Northwestern University was held on a perfect May afternoon. Among the sea of nursing students in caps and gowns, Selena Washington stood with quiet pride, her diploma representing not just academic achievement, but the fulfillment of a dream she'd never dared to voice. In the audience, Marcus and Ethan Hale occupied front-row seats, both beaming with the kind of pride usually reserved for family members. "That's her," Ethan announced to anyone within earshot, his voice carrying the confidence that had become his trademark. "That's my friend Selena. She's going to be the best nurse in Chicago." At 10 years old, Ethan had grown into a young man who saw possibilities where others saw limitations. His wheelchair basketball team had won the regional championship. His debate skills had earned him recognition at the state level. Most importantly, he'd become a mentor to younger children facing similar challenges, teaching them the same lesson Selena had taught him. That worth isn't measured by what your body can or can't do, but by the size of your heart and the strength of your spirit. After the ceremony, they met at Murphy's downtown cafeteria, a tradition that had started with necessity and evolved into something sacred. Patricia Chun, who still managed the restaurant but had undergone a noticeable attitude adjustment, personally served their table with a smile that seemed genuine rather than forced. "Congratulations, Nurse Washington," she said, setting down Selena's coffee. "We're all so proud of you." Selena looked around the familiar space where her life had changed so dramatically. The same checkered floors, the same coffee-stained counters, the the same mix of downtown workers and families grabbing quick meals. But everything felt different now, charged with possibility rather than resignation. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said to Marcus and Ethan. "I almost called in sick that day. The day I first met you. I was exhausted, my feet hurt, and I just wanted to go home and sleep. But you didn't," Ethan pointed out. "No, I didn't. And it changed everything." Marcus, who had watched his relationship with his son transform from distant and clinical to warm and authentic, nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately," he said. "How many moments like that we all probably miss? Times when a small gesture could change someone's entire trajectory. That's why I started the foundation," Ethan said matter-of-factly. Both adults stared at him. "The what now?" Selena asked. Ethan grinned, clearly pleased to have surprised them. "The Ethan Hale Foundation for Everyday Heroes. Dad's helping me set it up. We're going to give scholarships to people like you. People who do extraordinary things in ordinary moments." Marcus smiled at his son's ability to dream big and think practically at the same time. "He presented me with a 20-page business plan last month," he explained to Selena, "complete with budget projections and implementation timeline. I couldn't say no. Our first recipient starts nursing school in the fall," Ethan continued. "Her name is Maria Santos. She works at a grocery store and helped an elderly man who collapsed in the produce section. Stayed with him until the paramedics arrived, visited him in the hospital, helped him get connected with social services. Nobody asked her to do any of that. She just saw someone who needed help and provided it." Selena felt tears prick her eyes. "That's beautiful, Ethan. I learned it from you," he said simply. "You taught me that being a hero doesn't require superpowers or special training. It just requires showing up for people who need you." As they finished their meal, Selena reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this moment. She thought about her brother, who would have been 24 now, and how proud he would be to know that his struggle had helped her find her purpose. She thought about all the patients she would meet in her nursing career and how she would approach each one with the same philosophy she'd used with Ethan. See the person first, everything else second. Most of all, she thought about the mysterious alchemy of human connection, how three strangers sharing a meal in an unremarkable cafeteria had become family, bound together by the simple recognition that everyone deserves kindness, dignity, and the chance to be seen for who they really are. "So what's next?" Marcus asked as they prepared to leave. "Pediatric oncology," Selena said without hesitation. "I want to work with kids who are facing the hardest fight of their lives. I want to help them find reasons to laugh, even when everything feels scary and uncertain." "They're lucky to have you," Ethan said. "We all are," Marcus added quietly. As they walked to the parking lot for what would be the last time as their traditional trio, Selena was starting her new job at Children's Memorial Hospital the following Monday. Ethan suddenly stopped his wheelchair. "Wait," he said. "I have something for you." He pulled a small wrapped package from his backpack and handed it to Selena. She opened it carefully to reveal a simple silver bracelet with a tiny charm in the shape of a superhero cape. "For Captain Selena," Ethan explained. "So you never forget that you're a hero, even when you're just doing your job." Selena fastened the bracelet around her wrist, knowing she would wear it every day of her nursing career. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Both of you. For everything." "Thank you," Marcus replied, "for reminding us that the most important things in life can't be bought or earned. They can only be shared." As they went their separate ways that evening, each carrying the warmth of friendship and the satisfaction of a story well told, none of them could have predicted how far the ripples would continue to spread. But they all understood that somewhere, in cafeterias and hospitals and school cafeterias across the city, other ordinary moments were waiting to become extraordinary. All they needed was someone brave enough to see them, someone willing to kneel down beside a struggling child and say, "How can I help?" Someone ready to stand up to authority and say, "This matters more than rules." Someone who understood that the most powerful force in the world isn't money or influence or technology. It's the simple, revolutionary act of treating every person you meet like they matter, like they're worth your time, your attention, your care, like they're exactly as valuable as they are. If you made it to the end, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It truly means the world to us. See you in the next one.